In this video, we're diving into 5 of the most disturbing deaths that happened while setting world records. These are real stories of ambition pushed to the extreme, where chasing greatness came at the ultimate cost. From fatal stunts to skydives gone wrong, these tragic moments reveal the dark side of breaking boundaries. Let's get into it. It was a freezing morning on January 4th, 1967, in England's scenic Lake District. The sky was clear, the water calm, and 45-year-old Donald Campbell, legendary speed enthusiast, was ready to make history again. Behind the controls of his jet-powered hydroplane, the Bluebird K7, Campbell was attempting to break his own world water speed record. And this wasn't just any attempt. He'd already done it 7 times before. For weeks, Campbell had battled relentless bad weather and technical issues. But on this day, everything finally seemed to be lining up. The stakes were sky high, but so was his determination. Now let's talk about this machine, Bluebird K7. Designed by Ken and Lou Norris, it was a jet-powered beast with a sleek aluminum body and steel frame. It had a Metropolitan Vickers barrel axial flow turbojet engine, kicking out an insane 3,500 pounds of thrust. With its unusual pickle fork design, the Bluebird looked more like a futuristic aircraft than a boat, and it had already brought Campbell immense success on the water. At 8:45 a.m., with snow-capped hills reflecting off the still lake, the Bluebird was launched. Campbell, ever composed, gave a simple thumbs up before beginning his first run. Heading south across Coniston Water, he reached an average speed of 297 miles per hour. To break the record, he needed a 300 miles per hour average on the return leg. After a brief pause, he turned the boat around and began his second run, this time heading north. But something wasn't right. The water, although seemingly smooth, had small ripples. Campbell's voice came through the radio. "She's tramping," he said, a signal that the boat was gaining serious speed. Moments later, he added, "Full power. The water's not good. I can't see much." Then came his chilling final words. "I am upside down. She's going." Traveling at over 300 miles per hour, Bluebird's nose suddenly lifted. The hydroplane pitched backward, launched 50 feet into the air, then crashed nose first into the lake in a violent spray. The boat disintegrated on impact, disappearing beneath the water almost instantly. Divers tried desperately to recover Campbell's body, but they didn't have the right equipment. Only parts of the Bluebird, including the sponsons, were found. The next day, the search resumed with better tools. That night, his wife Tonya, a cabaret singer, arrived from London. Grieving, shocked, and overwhelmed. Campbell had always known the dangers of his passion. He once said that if the Bluebird's nose ever lifted even slightly, it could mean disaster. Tragically, that's exactly what happened, just 200 yards from the end of the measured course. Although he didn't complete the run, Campbell still held the official water speed record at 276.3 miles per hour, set in 1964 in Australia. But Donald Campbell's legacy wasn't just in the numbers. He was the son of Sir Malcolm Campbell, another speed record legend, and he devoted his life to chasing velocity, on land and water. His journey began back in 1949, using his father's Bluebird K4. Despite setbacks, he pressed on, eventually designing the revolutionary K7 in 1953, the first jet-powered boat to succeed. Between 1955 and 1964, he broke the water speed record 7 times. He even went after the land speed record in Australia, battling immense challenges to set a new mark in 1964. Over the years, Bluebird K7 was constantly upgraded, reflecting Campbell's relentless pursuit of perfection. After the fatal crash, Bluebird remained at the bottom of Coniston Water for decades. Then in 2001, engineer Bill Smith recovered the wreck and Campbell's body. The boat was painstakingly restored, sparking a legal battle over its ownership. But in 2018, something incredible happened. Bluebird K7 returned to the water in Scotland, hitting 150 miles per hour once again. Thousands watched, including Campbell's daughter Gina, as the iconic machine came back to life. Today, you can visit Bluebird at the Ruskin Museum in Coniston, where a special wing honors Donald Campbell's legacy and his unbreakable connection to this quiet corner of England. It was April 28, 2013, in the scenic hills of Darjeeling, India. Crowds gathered along the famous Coronation Bridge perched nearly 10,000 feet above sea level, buzzing with excitement. The man they came to see, Celendra Nath Roy, a 49-year-old police driver and stunt performer with a reputation for doing the impossible. Today he was attempting yet another jaw-dropping feat, crossing the Teesta River on a zip line, using nothing but his hair. Yes, his hair. Roy wasn't new to this kind of daredevil stunt. In fact, he already held a Guinness World Record for the farthest distance traveled on a zip wire using his hair. Just the year before, he had pulled a 42-ton train with his hair and traveled 270 feet on a zip line the same way. He was fearless, determined, and passionate about pushing the limits of human potential. With spectators watching from both ends of the bridge, Roy prepared for the stunt with patriotic pride. He wore a life jacket, carried the Indian flag, and carefully attached his long hair to the pulley mechanism of the zip line, stretched 180 meters across the roaring Teesta River below. Then, with confidence and control, he launched himself out over the water. At first, things went smoothly. Roy glided across the wire with apparent ease, making it halfway across the river. But then, tragedy struck. His ponytail became tangled in the zip line's wheeler. Suddenly, he was stuck, dangling in midair, unable to move forward. At first, the crowd continued to cheer, not realizing something had gone wrong. Roy began struggling, trying to free himself, using his arms to propel forward. But the more he fought, the more entangled his hair became. It was a terrifying situation, and he was alone up there, suspended above the river, unable to get help. Minutes ticked by. The cheers faded. The crowd slowly realized this wasn't part of the act. For 25 agonizing minutes, Celendra hung in the air, battling both the zip wire and the limits of human endurance. Witnesses described him trying to yell instructions, but his voice was faint and his words unclear. His movements slowed. Eventually, he stopped moving altogether. The most heartbreaking part? There was no medical team on site, no ambulance, no trained emergency personnel. Roy remained suspended for nearly 45 minutes before rescuers finally managed to bring him down. He was rushed to a hospital in Siliguri, about 450 kilometers away. But by the time he arrived, it was too late. Celendra Nath Roy was declared dead on arrival. The cause? A major cardiac arrest, likely triggered by extreme physical and emotional stress. Photographers and spectators were devastated. Balai Sutar, one of the photographers covering the event, recalled, "He was desperately trying to move forward. He was trying to scream, but no one could understand him. After struggling for 30 minutes, he became still." Roy's family, including his wife and 2 sons, were present during the stunt. His brother Benoy, watching one of Roy's performances for the very first time, spoke through tears. "We were proud of his bravery. He was sure to win, but destiny has taken the most beloved member of our family." In the days that followed, the tragedy raised serious concerns. Authorities revealed that Roy hadn't received proper permission to perform the stunt. He wasn't on duty at the time, and safety measures were sorely lacking. The absence of medical staff at such a dangerous event sparked outrage and a national conversation about the need for stricter regulations around extreme stunts. Despite the heartbreaking end, Celendra Nath Roy left behind a legacy of courage and unshakable determination. His life was defined by a deep desire to challenge what seemed impossible, but his death served as a sobering reminder of just how high the cost of such ambition can be. On August 27, 2019, in the vast, sun-baked expanse of Oregon's Alvord Desert, 39-year-old Jessie Combs was chasing history. A fearless American jet car racer known to fans as the fastest woman on 4 wheels, Jessie had one bold mission: to break a land speed record that had stood unchallenged since 1976. Jessie wasn't new to high-stakes speed. She had been passionate about racing and pushing the limits of engineering for years. In 2013, she had already set a record of 641 kilometers per h, earning her the title of the fastest woman on 4 wheels. But that wasn't enough. Her true goal was to beat Kitty O'Neill's legendary 823 kilometers per h record and become the fastest woman on Earth. That August morning, Jessie woke up to an alarm that declared, "Let's make history." Alongside her team from the North American Eagle (NAE) project, a group that had transformed a retired F-104 starfighter jet into a 52,000 horsepower land vehicle, she headed out to the dry lake bed. Her boyfriend and teammate, Terry Madden, documented the day, capturing her determination and joy as she prepared for what she hoped would be her final, record-breaking run. Although earlier runs had gone well, Jessie had expressed concern about the risks involved. She and Madden had even made plans to relax at a house in Lake Tahoe after wrapping up the attempts, but driven by ambition and heart, she decided to do one final run, to confirm the record, then walk away from speed racing for good. That afternoon, Jessie roared across the desert at a jaw-dropping speed of 841.338 kilometers per h, officially surpassing O'Neill's long-standing record. But just as she began to slow down, disaster struck. The front wheel assembly failed. As the vehicle decelerated past the end of the course, the broken assembly sent debris flying into the car's electronics and mechanical systems. In a matter of seconds, everything unraveled. Jessie's jet car crashed and she was killed instantly. Terry Madden was the first to reach the scene. Grieving and heartbroken, he later shared his anguish and pride on Instagram, assuring the world that Jessie's team had done everything they could to ensure her safety. Her death was a devastating blow, not just to her loved ones, but to the entire racing world. Jessie Combs wasn't just a racer. She was also a master metal fabricator, television host, and role model. She had inspired millions through her appearances on shows like Mythbusters, Overhaulin', and Extreme 4x4, where her upbeat personality, work ethic, and technical skills shined. She championed women in motorsports, constantly encouraging others, especially young girls, to break barriers. In the days following her death, tributes poured in. Her family remembered her bright smile, her fearlessness, and her relentless pursuit of her dreams. And in 2020, Guinness World Records officially recognized her final run, cementing her legacy. Jessie Combs, the fastest woman on Earth. Terry Madden's tribute was especially moving. He shared a montage of their memories together, writing that while the pain of losing her would never fade, he would continue to honor her legacy and spread her spirit of courage and determination. Jessie Combs lived and died doing what she loved most. Her story is a powerful reminder of the passion and peril that come with chasing greatness. On April 11, 1996, in Cheyenne, Wyoming, a tragic event unfolded during what was meant to be an inspiring coast-to-coast journey. 7-year-old Jessica Dubro, a bright and ambitious girl from Falmouth, Massachusetts, was attempting to become the youngest person to fly across the United States. Accompanying her were her father, 57-year-old Lloyd Dubro, and 52-year-old Joe Reed, a part-time flight instructor and full-time stockbroker. The trio was flying a Cessna 177B in what they called the Sea to Shining Sea flight, a 900-mile adventure from the Pacific to the Atlantic. The journey had begun the day before, on April 10th, from Half Moon Bay, California. Their goal was to reach the East Coast within 8 days, with multiple stops along the way for rest and media interviews. The flight quickly drew national attention as news outlets became captivated by the young girl's charm and daring mission. Footage showed Jessica perched in the cockpit on a booster seat, gripping the yoke with both hands and rudder extensions at her feet, all under Reed's supervision. Behind the scenes, it was Jessica's father, Lloyd, who orchestrated the trip. Although he wasn't a certified pilot, he managed the itinerary and coordinated media appearances. His enthusiasm for the spotlight meant long flight days, early morning interviews, and tight schedules. He handed out branded Sea to Shining Sea baseball caps and even filmed parts of the journey for ABC News. But as excitement grew, so did concern over the safety and practicality of such an ambitious endeavor, especially with a child in the cockpit. On the morning of April 11th, the weather in Cheyenne was quickly deteriorating. Thunderstorms were moving in, bringing gusty winds, rain, and hail. Despite these dangerous conditions, Reed, fatigued from the prior day's flights, chose to press on in order to stay on schedule. The plane, already overloaded with gear and passengers, faced additional strain from Cheyenne's high-altitude airport, over 6,600 feet above sea level. While Reed had logged over 1,400 flight hours, most of his experience was in lower-altitude coastal areas, making this leg particularly challenging. Jessica had about 33 hours of instruction time, but the image of her as the flight's true pilot was more symbolic than real, a narrative largely fueled by media and her father's publicity push. In fact, both the FAA and the Guinness Book of Records had already distanced themselves from recognizing such record attempts due to safety concerns. Shortly after takeoff from runway 30, the Cessna struggled to climb. Witnesses watched helplessly as it barely cleared 400 feet, before banking right and nose-diving into a residential neighborhood. The impact was catastrophic. All 3 on board were killed instantly. Though there was no fire, the front of the aircraft was destroyed, and fuel had spilled across the crash site. In the aftermath, national grief turned into legislative action. President Bill Clinton signed the Child Pilot Safety Act, banning unlicensed individuals, particularly minors, from attempting aviation records. The law aimed to ensure that aviation challenges were left in the hands of trained, qualified pilots, and to prevent future tragedies born from well-intentioned but dangerous dreams. On April 3, 2014, in Eloy, Arizona, about 65 miles south of Phoenix, the desert sky was clear, with perfect conditions for skydiving. At Skydive Arizona, one of the country's premier skydiving facilities, 222 skydivers from 28 nations had gathered with a shared goal: to break the world record for the most people to complete 2 aerial formations during freefall before deploying their parachutes. Among the elite skydivers was 46-year-old Diana Paris from Berlin, Germany. With over 1,500 jumps to her name, Diana was a seasoned veteran and a respected figure in the skydiving community. She was part of the prestigious World Team, a group of expert skydivers who had trained for 18 months to perfect this highly coordinated jump. The plan was as daring as it was intricate. The skydivers would leap from aircraft at 18,000 feet, form a specific shape in the air, break apart, reform into a second shape, and then deploy their parachutes. As the sun rose over the desert and the clock struck 7:30 a.m., the jumpers suited up in vibrant jumpsuits and strapped on oxygen masks for the high-altitude dive. Excitement surged as they boarded the planes, each carrying a group of participants. Once at altitude, the signal was given. One by one, skydivers exited the aircraft, falling through the sky at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. The first formation came together flawlessly, a breathtaking display of color and precision. As they transitioned into the second formation, all appeared to be going according to plan. Then, tragedy struck. Diana Paris's main parachute malfunctioned and failed to deploy correctly. In skydiving, timing is everything. When the main parachute fails, the reserve chute must be deployed quickly. Unfortunately, Diana was too close to the ground when the malfunction occurred. Her reserve parachute didn't have enough time or altitude to fully open, and she fell to the ground. At 7:42 a.m., emergency responders were called to the scene. Diana was pronounced dead upon impact. The skydiving community was stunned. Skydive Arizona confirmed the accident, stating that the malfunction was unrelated to group size or weather. It had been a rare equipment failure at the worst possible moment. Diana's husband, who had attended the event, told investigators that she was deeply experienced and well aware of the risks. This wasn't her first major jump, and she had trained extensively for this record attempt. Her death underscored a harsh truth of the sport. Even experts are vulnerable when gear fails. In the face of grief, the World Team chose to move forward. They held an emotional meeting, deciding to honor Diana's legacy in the most fitting way by continuing the record attempt. However, they made one heartfelt change. The formation would now consist of 221 skydivers, with Diana's position left open in a missing woman tribute. On the day of the tribute jump, emotions ran high. The team executed the formation beautifully, with Diana's empty slot a silent salute to their lost teammate. The accident sparked an investigation by local police and the FAA, confirming it was a tragic equipment failure, reminding all that skydiving, no matter how well planned, always carries inherent risks.